Piss, I forgot to put the cork back.
Looks like I'm out of time.
Bob Saget.
Good evening, explorers, adventurers, tall tale tellers, imbibers, and subscribers. Welcome to another action-packed episode of Before the Mast, a show where we like to... It's actually going to be pretty relaxing. I mean, we're drinking mojitos here. Well, we were. That drink is the preeminent relaxing drink, for fuck's sake. I introduced the drinks here, you drunken bastard. Yeah. Tonight we're drinking mojitos, as my future me stated when so rudely interrupted myself. We're drinking mojitos because I did a virtual interview with a fellow veteran who has a podcast and is big on helping us veterans navigate the slalom of despair that is the civilian world. Individual experiences may vary, of course. Mojitos are his favorite summer drink, so the Laka Laka Lounge will honor our virtual guest. Sort of virtual in a very analog sort of way, by toasting with his favorite drink. To the Laka Laka Lounge to raid the liquor locker. Break out the rum, boys and girls. It's time to get hep to a timeless classic. Buenos Nardos. The mojito has an interesting history, and shocker, it's a disputed history. But all historical mojito roads lead us to Havana, Cuba. It is said that in 1586, Sir Francis Drake landed there with the intention of raiding the city and pillaging it for its Spanish gold. But Drake's crew had scurvy, and also a bad case of Montezuma's revenge that was going around the boat. So instead of sacking and pillaging, Drake ended up looking for a tonic that would cure his crew's ills. The indigenous population there gave him the recipe of aguardiente de caña, which is a precursor to rum. It's a very rough sugarcane alcohol. Sugarcane juice, mint leaves, and lime juice. Sound familiar? It should. This seemed to cure the crew of the scurvy and help them get rid of the runs. And Drake sailed on to pillage and plunder another day. The drink became known as the El Drac, presumably after Drake himself. Shortly after Drake went through Havana with his tonic, it became a big thing. In this history, it is said that African slaves in the sugarcane fields gave it the name Mojito. You know, this history sounds an awful lot like the daiquiri history, which also hails from Cuba and was also made popular by a relatively famous guy who appears in our next history. Version number 2. A bar in Havana called La Bodeguita del Medio made the first mojito sometime in the late 1920s. Havana was a popular destination for Americans who had been screwed over by the Volstead Act, which basically turned the entire United States into one big sobriety checkpoint / church potluck. Well, some might say that was good, clean, wholesome fun. The rest of America was just trying to find the guy who could put gin in the punch bowl. Enter Ernest Hemingway, who staggered into La Bodeguita del Medio one fine day and had a nice little nip off this intoxicating nectar. It is said that this became his favorite drink. Again, the parallels to the daiquiri are evident. So was the daiquiri Hemingway's favorite drink, or was the mojito? Well, the daiquiri has a version of it named after Ernest Hemingway. So, maybe he was just like me, and every rum concoction that touches my tongue turns into my favorite drink. Possibly. Either way, the mojito was born, and the world was better off for it. It spread from Cuba and into North America, and then into South America, and finally the world. No matter whether it was Drake or La Bodeguita del Medio with the push of Hemingway, the mojito was born. And here we are, a good 100 years later, savoring this wonderful drink. It's time to chill the fuck out. First thing I'm going to do is get some mint. All right, you want to gently wake this up so that the oils come out and become aromatic. So, hey, time to get up. Time to get the fuck up. 1 ounce of lime juice. 1 ounce of simple syrup. Now, I'm using Demerara syrup. You can use regular simple syrup. I'm just using Demerara syrup because I like the flavor. It's got some caramelly notes to it that I enjoy. All right, now you want to muddle these together. Just gently. What you want to do is get the mint oils and the sugars all kind of mixed up. And bring those mint leaves up on the glass to coat the glass too. Upward mobility. The exact opposite of my career. Now on top of that, we're going to throw 1.5 ounces of light rum. You can use gold rum or even dark rum, but those are called dirty mojitos. And this mojito is clean. I guess it's a little bit dirty because of the Demerara syrup. Throw some ice in there without splashing it all over the place. And then you're just going to fill the rest with club soda. The mojito. Chill the fuck out, guys. That's really good. It's minty, it's limey, it's got that pow from the fizzy. I usually don't do fizzy drinks because they make me kind of gassy. In fact, the blooper reel on this one's probably going to be a real gas. Not half bad. Well, look at that. It looks like it's time for me to tell you about a friend of mine, a fellow Navy veteran, and a podcaster who uses that platform to help and inform other veterans. His name is Jason, and he is the host of the podcast WatchRolling.com. And the link to that is down in the description and also down in the comments. A few months ago, Jason gifted me this fancy watch. See, as you may have guessed, Jason is a watch aficionado. Or if I may be so bold, he is a wrist chronometer hobbyist expert. That sounds impressive. I want to give you a layman's review of this watch, but first let me tell you some things about Jason. I asked him several questions and he was gracious enough to answer for our edification. Jason's favorite cocktail, as you may have guessed, is the Mojito. At least in the summer. Jason has a favorite cocktail for every season. The winter is the hot toddy, the fall is the old fashioned, and the spring is the Tom Collins. You, sir, are well put together. Along with his podcast, he still holds down a 9 to 5, but somehow he still finds time to bring us valuable information on veterans' affairs, and also interesting updates in the world of horology. Come on, people. It's not. Be mature for a second. Horology, the study and measurement of time and the art of making timepieces. He's got a love for learning about watches, and he says he'll never stop. And he's also into the arts, drawing, painting, reading, film, a real Renaissance man. There is an artistic quality to time and timepieces, in the intricate details and the precision. These are attributes that got Jason interested in the wide world of watches. Jason says, and I quote, "There's so much beauty in the complications, materials, and stories behind the timepieces." Well stated. I've always loved watches myself, and I've always had an analog wristwatch for as long as I can remember. And whenever I hit a port, oddly enough, a watch was usually the first thing I would get, and then I'd get a drink. And then I'd get tattooed. Usually then I'd lose the watch that I just got. Which is why I got one in every port. Jason goes on to say that another thing that got him into horology was the fact that in the Navy, time plays such a huge role, it becomes a part of you. As a one-time quartermaster, I can fully 100% concur. In fact, my lovely wife gets annoyed with me every once in a while over my own obsession with time and being on time, or the ticking of the clocks or the watches that I have. But see, the tick, 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 tick on my watch is comforting to me. Well, to her, it's nerve-wracking. So now I have a watch that does not tick, and there are very few clocks in the house. We all make sacrifices for love, and hers have been far greater than clocks on walls. The world continues to turn, but I digress. Jason says time really does frame the fabric of our service. And he's absolutely right. I cannot separate my service from the measurement of time. This watch that Jason gave me is a late 1960s to early 1970s Bulova Accutron. Now, I recently got a Timex so I could go out to sea. Comparing the two, the brand new Timex and the vintage Bulova, I gotta say the Bulova kept time a lot more accurate. I really love the absolute classiness of the numberless dial and the buff gold case. Complications are cool on some watches, but I like the minimalist attitude of this one. It's juxtaposed in a really good way against the maximalist attitude of my own aesthetic. It doesn't tick, so I can wear it around the missus. And I really enjoy wearing this watch. So thanks, Jason. It was a good pick. Jason did a full 20 years in the United States Navy. And at that time, he was mostly an East Coast sailor, visiting ports in the Caribbean, the Med, the Red, the Adriatic, and the Aegean. I asked him what his first overseas bar experience was like. He gave me the highlights: crystal clear water off the island of St. Martin and a bar called the Greenhouse. Of course, no overseas bar experience would be complete without some mystery liquor nobody's ever heard of and you can't remember the name of because you drank too much of it. Well, in St. Martin, the mystery liquor was berry flavored. He won big at a casino, but he still found time to give back to the community through a community relations project, or COMREL. These projects, they usually involve refurbishing schools or hospitals, or providing assistance and humanitarian aid, that kind of thing. You know, I had quite a COMREL experience in Cambodia. That's a story for a different episode. He managed to get himself aboard an old couple's yacht for dinner. I once had tuna sandwiches at an Egyptian millionaire's mansion in Cairo. That's another story for a different episode. And then he remembers something about a drink called the Windex. We'll have to see if I can find that. Now, I know that most of you who watch this quality programming are smart enough, but this being the internet, I feel compelled to say this. Do not drink Windex. No Windex for you. What a world. I asked Jason how he stays connected with the veteran community. His podcast, WatchRolling.com, is a veteran-owned podcast and blog that focuses on watch collecting with the goal of helping other veterans. So the first half of each episode is dedicated to covering veteran resources and information sharing. In his last episode, he went over the new PACT Act, which if you have a Vietnam veteran in your family or your friends, or you or somebody you know is a global war on terrorism veteran, you should definitely go back and watch that, because the PACT Act has to do with you, them, us. I asked him what his least favorite liquor was, and he said anything with malt. Well, I can understand that. The only time I like malt is in a milkshake. I asked him what his favorite Navy memories are. He said making Chief Petty Officer was one of his favorites, and also watching his former sailors progress farther than he ever went in the Navy. And I can concur with that. I feel the same way when I look at my former people. Finally, he wants to invite everybody to take a deep dive into the great things that veterans are doing in the real world and the virtual world. He says, "Doth quoth our first ever virtual guest. Aaron is a phenomenal artist and is one example of how diverse, talented, and driven we are as a community." Stop, I'm getting misty. It's difficult to express yourself as a civilian when you spend so many years sacrificing one's creative side. If you know vets doing creative stuff, try to support them. It'll mean more than you know. Unquote. Well stated, shipmate, and thank you for the kind compliments. And the beautiful watch. I wish great success to you and your podcast, WatchRolling.com. Remember to visit WatchRolling.com. That link is down in the comments and in the description. I'll see you next time. Cheers, you bastards.
What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? Early in the morning, way hey and up she rises. Way hey and up she rises. Way hey and up she rises. Early in the morning, putting in the longboat until he's sober. Putting in the longboat until
Tall tale tellers. Say that one time fast. You know, this history sounds an awful lot like the daiquiri history. The fucking fuck? And a bar called the Green. Bob fucking Saget. As you may have guessed. Oh. I want that flight dead. I want his family dead. I want everybody he's ever known dead. Fly has been tormenting me for weeks. That I feel the same way when I look at my former guys and girls. People. My former people. Shipmates. What now, you little bastard?